Let's take a look at some charts on Yearn Finance, or Wi-Fi, from this week's article in Brave New Coin. So Wi-Fi is another DeFi protocol and DeFi coin. The protocol is used for automated yield farming. The coin is used for governance and staking. A classic duo lately in the DeFi realm, as far as we have this thing to do something, and then we have this token that does something else, and sometimes the token is worth something, sometimes it isn't. What anybody's guess is as far as what those tokens should be worth is kind of up to the market, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of this stuff right now. If we look at the total value locked on Wi-Fi, it exploded late last year, and then since then has sort of curtailed by 50%, let's say, and kind of stayed down low-ish. So I'm going to show you a variety of reasons why I'm bearish on Wi-Fi in the near term. And it's not really one thing, it's kind of death by a thousand cuts as far as what the on-chain stuff shows, what the tech shows, what stuff like this shows, where if Wi-Fi was popular, you'd expect to see an increase in yield farming. If yield farming was hot right now, a lot of this stuff is fickle, where people will pile into it in one day and then pile out of it the next, and then just never come back or ignore it or move to the next thing, like locusts, right? They just feast on Wi-Fi, then they move on to SNX or Aave, and then they move on to something else. But the reason why Wi-Fi or something like it is useful is because we have more and more DeFi platforms now where you can lend and borrow things, where there's a yield to be gained. And my understanding of the way this works is you put your money in the DAO, it's non-custodial, and then that DAO makes decisions in the background, right? Deciding like where to put this stuff for the best yield, or set of things for the best yield. And there's Compound, there's DYDX, there's Aave, there's SNX, there's all this stuff with all this variable yield. It goes up and down all the time. It just makes sense to have something on top of everything that allows you to just throw your money in there, collect yield algorithmically to the best that it can. And here's DAI. DAI's going all over the place. Makers, another one of these borrowing and lending platforms. And Wi-Fi's got a bunch of other stuff as well, but mainly the play is yield farming. I mean, they've tried to branch out into some other stuff: automated market making, leveraged stablecoins, tokenizing insurance. I think the more things they can do, the better under one house. Obviously, if you can, like Binance, right? If Binance can do everything else where all these other places can only do a few things, people are going to focus their attention on Binance, because why wouldn't you, right? It's a one-stop shop. It's IKEA. You can get Swedish meatballs, you can get furniture, you can get plants, all in one place for a nice warehouse wholesale price. If we look at the Unchained Stats for the token, they're a bit bleak. So we have transaction sizes declining, transaction counts declining over the past few weeks, basically to multi-month lows. We have transaction sizes increasing to multi-month highs. That in itself isn't bearish, but I think the decline in transactions, all of the on-chain metrics measure ultimately is how hot is this stuff? Is it hot enough where people are buying and selling it, moving all over the place? Are they staking a lot of it? Are they moving it in and out of staking wallets? Are they excited about it? That sort of thing. To me, that's what on-chain metrics represent. So to see transactions per day falling, I can't be bullish on that. If we look at NVT and active addresses, NVT has been rising over the past few weeks. Active addresses have been falling over the past few weeks. Again, just death by a thousand cuts, right? Transactions down, active addresses down, NVT up. If we look at DeFi crypto Google Trends, that has risen back to where it basically was late last year after declining significantly. If you look at yield farming Google Trends, those are down and have stayed down since the big run-up, which just coincides with, all the TVL, right? All the total value locked was when we had this massive spike in Google Trends. And DeFi is super hot right now, but not yield farming, which makes sense if you're looking at other DeFi coins unrelated to yield farming. exchange tokens or SNX Aave Maker, that sort of thing. If we look at the technicals for Wi-Fi, the first thing I noticed was, again, this 5200 cross. This is on the 4-hour. 5200 bear cross on the 4-hour. Price is below the 200 period moving average. It looks like it wants to retest this VPVR level, this yearly pivot level. And if that fails, it's headed for 14K. But 20 to 24K looks highly probable, especially with the bearish cross to the downside, which is probably going to happen over the next few days, if not hours. Something else I've talked about before is Wi-Fi has set up a series of basically bearish reversals or bearish continuations ever since it's been above 10K. So initially it had that massive, beautiful textbook head and shoulders. That broke down as expected into a descending triangle, which broke down. Then you got your bullish divergence, bearish divergence, another head and shoulders that didn't really go anywhere, and now we have this weird descending triangle / triple top situation that looks like it wants basically 17 to 21K, and all that lines up with the support levels as well. So if this breaks 28, I don't know what it is today right now, but if this breaks 28, that's a pretty good sign if you're bearish as far as expecting lower lows in the near term. And if we look at the cloud's been a bit of a mess. It is the 4-hour, it is kind of all over the place. But as far as expectations go, it's done pretty well in that it wanted you to be short over here. It broke down a little bit. Then you got your bullish Kumo breakout again. It broke up, okay. And now we're back below the cloud, bearish TK cross, bearish Kumo twist, bearish lagging span. Everything is lining up. Volume is declining. I don't really see any bull divs here on anything. So it's hard, collectively, overall, it's just hard to be bullish on the current state of what's going on collectively. I think the service is great. I think the protocol is great. I think it'll probably exist for a long time. Do I personally think the token should be valued at 30K? Probably not. The developer Andre himself said, "We have released Wi-Fi, the token, a completely valueless zero supply token. We reiterate it has zero financial value." So this is the developer telling you that it has zero value, and this is the market telling you this is what we want to trade it at. So it's kind of at odds, right? The developer's saying it's worth nothing, the market's saying it's worth 30K. Another thing that's important to think about here is, why is the price the way it is? Because of the supply and demand metrics. If there's only 30,000 tokens in existence, or let's say there's a little bit more based on how they vote in the near term or in the short term, that's going to affect price at the end of the day. If they 10x the coins, I'd expect price to go down by 10x, right? Like that's just, I expect a 1-to-1 in the near term if any of that happens. So any of the further development that happens, great. The service is great, like I said. It's needed, it's necessary. Is the token really, should it be worth anything? That's up for everyone in the market to decide.